Hey, what's up, you guys? It's me, KDO Review, and yep, Dreamworks made it official. Shrek 5 is finally coming out in July of 2026. That's like 2 years away, though. I don't want to say it's been a long time for this announcement just to hurry up because I feel like, yeah, it was a whole thing with DreamWorks merging with Universal. They took their time taking in DreamWorks into their own hands. And I feel like their first DreamWorks movie, especially, was actually Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Because, no, it wasn't. I'm tripping right now. I'm trying to remember my facts with DreamWorks. Back in 2019, Universal acquired DreamWorks, and their first actual feature film was actually How to Train Your Dragon 3. And after that, everything has been Trolls, Boss Babies, and early enough around 2021. Damn, I'm forgetting my years now. Why am I doing this in this video? A few years ago, we got Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and me going into it, I'm like, you know what? I like Shrek. Puss in Boots, I heard about a sequel to Puss in Boots in the works for a couple of years now. I'm like, I'm gonna just give it a shot, and I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw the pictures of Puss in Boots, and one is because I saw the scrolling on TikTok before they put out their trailer, where I'm like, why does he look like that? I'm gonna be honest with you. I wasn't digging the whole Spider-Verse animation style they put on it for him because I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's gonna look like Shrek animation, it's gonna be all this and that. But when I saw it, I'm like, it's uncanny valley to me. It's like I know what he looks like, but this seems like it's more for kids instead of just for me. And once that movie came out, I said, all right, let's give this a shot. And all expectations were exceeded by a long shot because it's crazy thinking Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was as good as it was because yeah, the animation aside, it did a whole Spider Verse thing where it looks like Spider Verse, but not really because it does include some of the DreamWorks 3D style of animation in certain scenes. Like it'll look like a standard 3D movie, but then once the action sequences go wrong, you'll see the whole transition of Spider Verse to actual 3D animation, and you'll be like, no, you know what? For even though I don't like the styling for this kind of worked for it, and I'm kind of glad because it was a success even during the whole Christmas season and pandemic. Because you got to remember, all these animated movies they were being put on streaming, and once they said, okay, animation is for the theaters, and once we do that, hopefully it's gonna end up being good because Lightyear tested it too. Pixar put their two animated movies, Soul, no, that was Pandemic. Luca, Training Red, and I feel like they thought, okay, these aren't going to make as much money in theaters, but Lightyear, our biggest hit coming off of Toy Story, that's going to be the moneymaker. And it wasn't for the most part. It was a bit iffy. But then when Puss in Boots came out, I'm like, yeah, everybody's going to put this in theaters. And definitely it was. And the movie kind of did set up Shrek 5 because at the very end of that movie, you see Puss, Kitty, and Perrito actually sail their way to far, far away. And it's like, oh, we're gonna go back to Shrek, so we're gonna get a Shrek 5, right? And I gotta give it to Eddie Murphy because he's been doing a couple interviews for his new movie, Beverly Hills Cop 4. And it's funny that he said, oh, yeah, we're recording Shrek 5 right now at the moment, but also after Shrek, we're gonna get a donkey movie. So it's like, oh, we're gonna get a donkey spinoff. That's kind of cool. But this video is mainly gonna be talking about Shrek 5 and my feelings towards it. Is it cool that we're getting a Shrek 5? In this type of day, I'm not surprised. I feel like, yeah, the story ended when it ended, where Shrek Forever After actually concluded everything. Shrek got the life he wanted. And yes, even though he didn't like the life he expected, he still appreciated and saw that, oh no, these are the people, all my family, my loved ones, they're the ones who actually make me who I am now. And the whole story ended there. Then when Puss in Boots came out, I'm like, okay, we're going the prequel route. And then when the last one, it did the sequel thing where it's like, okay, this is after Shrek Forever After. So this means, okay, so this is a sequel technically, but this is also setting up our next upcoming future. There are three key things I wonder for this movie, and it's a little bit of a nitpick thing where I'm like, okay, I know they're going to do another one, and I'm trusting DreamWorks the fact that, okay, they saw what they do with Puss in Boots. Hopefully, they can try to apply the same team that worked on Puss in Boots onto Shrek 5, because I feel like the way Puss in Boots came out good by accident is the fact that DreamWorks, they had a formula of making movies, but also the fact that they're always reverting to sequels, going back to what they wanted, like Boss Baby, Trolls. For the most part, I don't like those franchises. I don't like them as much as the other ones, but I feel like they saw something in those and said, okay, this is going to be our standard. Well, the higher ups were like, you know what? We're going to bring back Puss in Boots, but instead of actually milking a franchise and saying, okay, we're going to just do this for money, we're going to actually put some work, effort, styles, art. We're going to do a lot for Puss in Boots, and hopefully enough they can try to do the same thing for Shrek. My second thing is, what's the animation going to look like? Because Yes, Puss in Boots did the whole Spider-Verse thing, and I feel like every studio is trying to do the Spider-Verse thing. But I wonder if they're gonna keep that art style because personally, I want the original Shrek style, the whole 3D style animation. Everything in that universe looked cleaner and more real to the fact that okay, these are actual animated characters, and it doesn't look like a whole cartoon. I know Shrek is animated, but you can't lie and say that some of the visuals, some of the action sequences in those earlier movies aren't as realistic compared to a movie of today. Because yeah, animation is for kids, but you got to remember Shrek back then, and it wasn't until my parents or anybody acknowledged it to me. Shrek was for the mature style of animation because yeah, it's rated PG, but there were certain adult jokes. There are certain things in those movies where it's like, okay, I look at it from a kid's view and I'm like, cartoons, Shrek, donkey. And then when I look at it now, I'm like, oh, that's hilarious. Like, it's funny I didn't even catch that. Personally, I think they should go back to the original styles, and also the fact that the first Puss in Boots was in the original Shrek style. So once you see Puss in Boots go from 2D Spider Verse style to actual 3D polygons again, it's going to be no difference whatsoever, and you're going to be like, oh, it's the same character. And it's not going to be like, oh, they redesigned it. It's ugly. You've seen it before. It doesn't matter. My third thing is this going to be a push to a new trilogy or a new franchise for the Shrek universe? Because they announced Shrek 5, and Eddie Murphy did kind of let it slip that, oh, we're going to be working on a donkey movie next. So it's like, okay, we're going to get Shrek 5. Me now knowing that is going to be like, okay, we get Shrek 5, but then after this is going to be a Donkey spinoff. Are we going to get an origin on Donkey? Because I don't think it needs an origin. He needs an origin story because, yeah, we could settle with his life, with Dragon, his kids. Also, maybe try to introduce some new comedic side characters because one thing with Donkey is that I like him as the side comedic character, but him taking on a whole movie by himself is going to be a bit questionable unless he has some sidekicks or at least associated characters where it's like, okay, I can appreciate that they're along for the journey, but you as the main lead by yourself doing this, I don't see it. Puss in Boots is the exception because you got to remember he has his own character and story. And the fact that they based him around Zorro, which is kind of funny because he's also played by Antonio Banderas. But yeah, they based him on a whole Zorro style adventure, even including some of the fairy tale elements because that's got to be included in this too. Some of the fairy tale elements in Shrek are good because they aren't trying to be traditional with it. They could play around with the idea because they did that with Puss in Boots in The Last Wish, and I feel like yeah, some let me do some more of that. Do some more of the little exaggerated fairy tale nonsense you did in that and the earlier Shrek movies, and hopefully we can actually do some magic with this one. By the time this even comes out, I'm gonna be 24, and it's gonna be crazy going to a whole new theater with kids. And I'm gonna be honest, because I feel like I might as well address this in one of my videos. Let's not go into this like, oh, this is gospel, this is cinema. Let's not do that whole TikTok whole all-star bullshit because I feel like I don't think this is made for them. This is made for us, the real ones who stuck around with the Shrek franchise, because I still have some history with those movies. And I remember seeing my first Shrek movie, the third one, in theaters when everybody was like, oh, Shrek is coming back to theaters and stuck around till now. I feel like the modern day people of I wouldn't even say people. Our fandom these days is more around reactions, TikToks, the hits. And yes, I'm kind of doing this a bit myself, which is a bit of a hypocrisy. But the fact is, I'm actually a fan of these things. I enjoy them for the most part. And I feel like, yeah, I'm not going to exploit this just for, oh my God, I got to bust a load off of this. No, I'm in for a good movie. And plus, who's wrong with not saying, okay, we can bring this back for our modern audience, but at least our audience can grow up with this new property? Those are my thoughts. I just want to put this out there because I wasn't even going to do a video on it, but I'm like, no, you know what? I feel like I got to talk about Shrek. It's one of my old school hits. And I feel like, yeah, stuff like this, I'm going to really stick around for. I'm not going to be, oh, I'm not going to neglect the Shrek franchise because I do enjoy it for the most part. But most of the stuff people have been doing online or looking at Shrek as like the meme thing, I don't want that to be a big thing for the new one. I just want to go into it with open arms, actually have a good time walking out the theater, and then saying, you know what, I will stick around for that donkey spinoff. Alright, guys, thank you guys for watching. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. All my social media is down in the description below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.